Hey everyone, this is Dan at SP Motorsport. This week we have a product spotlight video and a product install video. We're gonna merge it all into one. So what we have here for you this week is a vent gauge mount that we came up with for the 2024 Plus Mustang, the S650s. We were working on a project car in-house and we were working on a new product on it and we needed a boost gauge. We started looking on the internet, and of course you always meander onto YouTube. And we wanted to see if there was anything else that we could just pick up quick to throw a gauge in the car, and there was nothing there. Everything else that was available on the market currently was either a universal use aspect, like a suction cup to the windshield, or just chucking it on top of the dash or holding it, or I don't even know what people were doing, but we wanted to come out with something nice for you guys. So we ended up doing a injection molded ABS housing. On the S650 cars, it is a lot more difficult for us to do it because the vent itself is a lot more square than the earlier cars. Most of the earlier Ford stuff was a very round vent. So it was a lot easier to integrate a bushing style or like a cage style mount that would just drop into the actual vent itself. Well, in this scenario, being the way that the physical gauge had to go into the vent area, it couldn't protrude, and it's basically the exact same size as the vent itself. So when we designed it, we had to take into account the physical ductwork for the vent. We had to take into account the louvers to direct the air. There was a lot of things that had to go into it. So it was a pain to do, but we know that there's applications out there that need it too already. Not just to fill the bill for us, but we know there's Whipple supercharger kits, there's Roush supercharger kits out on the market. All you guys need boost gauges. So there's no need to really do a full A-pillar worth of gauges on newer cars, because especially in the newer Mustangs, because there's all kinds of onboard data that you can get with factory sensors and everything. But on the 5 liters, because they're mass airflow, it's not as easy to get boost pressure readings. So a lot of guys end up having to put a boost gauge in the car. Another thing we want to touch on is fitting the physical gauge into the mount. We do have to keep it open enough and flexible enough with different brands because they vary a lot in size. They're smaller, they're bigger.
That's what she said.
But we try to fit a happy medium. You can use the back strap deal, the mount that comes with a lot of the gauges. They may require trimming depending on what brand it is. We like to just use a standard electrical tape, something of that nature, wrap it around the gauge. If it's too small, you get the fit that you need. It's easy to do, not a big deal, but we're gonna actually show you that because we're gonna go ahead and throw this on one of the cars and show you the process. Not quite as easy as we would like it to be, but it's also not super hard. So we're gonna show you what's all entailed in it and get this bad boy installed. All right, guys, we're gonna start here with our panel popper tool, a little plastic panel popper tool. There is a panel directly behind the screen, so we're gonna go ahead and get that popped up. You can do it from either end, just be careful. There aren't any actual bolts holding this down, so you're just gonna get in there with that panel popper and kind of move everything around and pop it up. So get it to just release. We got the trim panel off. We're gonna go ahead and take the bolts out behind the screen now because we have to remove the LCD screen. So these bolts are the closest screws to the back of the LCD screen, and they're vertical. So you're gonna have to come in with a socket and an extension that will fit between the windshield, obviously, and get you down far enough. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these bolts that need to come out. So let's go ahead and pull these out. The one thing we do recommend when taking these out is you can use a You can use a magnetic socket, and or you can stick a piece of paper in the end of it or tape, shove it down over the actual socket itself, and that'll help it come out. And or leave it down in there and just use a magnet to take them out. That'll work as well. But let's go ahead and pull out all of these. So once you get all the bolts out and we go to pop this loose, you don't actually have to remove any of the physical connectors for the screen. Like I said, try not to drop them. All right, so now that we got those 4 out, they're the lower 4. There are 2, one there and one about right here. Yeah. All right. Now you can go into the car. And the screen itself, if you just pull out on it, it also has clips in it. So it has the spring style clips and alignment pins. So all you have to do is basically pop this loose, let it hang down and out of the way here, a little off to the side. We can show you the whole reason we have to do this. Is this trim panel right here has a single screw holding it behind the screen. So that's the culprit. Why they would do it that way, I'm not sure, but we have to take that out. That's a 7mm. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. And then same thing as the screen. This is actually on spring clips as well. So we just have to, you gotta put a little bit of effort behind it, kind of squeeze it and pull out on it. And then there you go. I'm gonna pop this side panel off too, just to give us a little bit more room here, which those are all also just on clips. And then the nice thing is you can feed your wiring for your gauge and everything up in through this part of the dash to get to actual vent area. See these clips here on the actual vent itself. We're gonna pull up on those. And there's 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And as you're kind of lifting on the clip, you're gonna just pull up on the gauge a little, or on the vent rather. Easier to use the actual tool. I'm trying to not get in the way here so we can show this. There we go. So, all right, so now that we got that out, there are the actual tangs that we're going to snap all that into. So the vent will be the same thing. It utilizes the same clips as our prototype piece here. The vent will unclip with those, and then you'll take the actual gauge mount. Same type of thing here. And there are alignment dowels that you will align that with. And we can go ahead and just slide it over like that. And then you can see how they snap back in. All right guys, so now that we have all this out, you're gonna remove the gauge or the vent the way that I showed you out of the trim there. You're gonna have, obviously we're gonna have to install a gauge into the vent mount, and all the gauges are gonna fit differently. So no gauge is the same. They're all 2 1/16, but they're not 2 1/16. So a lot of them are gonna come with like a rear holding strap that goes from the rear, and then you have these posts. You can trim these. They are, some are metal, some are plastic, and I don't know, they're a pain in the butt, and it's hard to get all of them right. So what I recommend doing is taking tape like a real man and wrapping it around the outer edge of the gauge and building it up so that it just fits snugly. If it's already fitting snug without the tape, then just send it home. Most of them will go. They may start in and just be a little tight and then just finish jamming it in there. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap a layer of tape around this gauge here. Sorry about the noise in the shop, guys. We're trying to work and be productive and still film this. So I usually start with just one layer. Throw one layer around the gauge. And then check it out. See, we're already getting snug. So the alignment dowel, we're gonna wanna make sure before we push this in there, there's an alignment pin there and there. You're gonna wanna see how this actually lines up so that whenever you position the gauge, you're positioning it correctly. So we're clearly upside down, so we need to spin this. So, do that. Square it up with the housing. And send her home. Locking tabs will go through the square holes. These are your actual locking tabs. So go ahead, line those up. Make sure they're actually going through there. Push it in. Easy as that. So now all we got to do is finish connecting the gauge. We'll hook these lines back up. Reverse of removal. The other thing I do want to also point out is the bottom of the gauge vent mount has a notch in it back by the vent itself. That is for running the wires through. So once you get everything kind of routed, you're going to end up doing that. And that'll keep the wires from getting pinched between the gauge and the adapter and the actual duct work for the gauge itself, or the vent itself. That. There we go. Snap it back in. And this isn't really included in our instructions because all gauges are different, but just so people know, one of the easy places to find a keyed hot in this car for turning the lights and everything on your gauges is inside the A-pillar. So if you pull the A-pillar off, there's a connector in here that has a keyed hot on it. So you can tap into that to light the gauges up. And then I'll usually use a dash bolt right in here. I'll use one of the dash bolts as the grounding bolt. It's just easy to get to. It keeps the wires nice and short, and it doesn't overcomplicate your wiring harness for your gauge. And it puts everything kind of in the same spot. I'm trying to make this more easily visible, but I think I'm just making it harder. So yeah, once you pop it in, you can actually take something like this and just run it up past your weather stripping and get it up over top of it. So, all right, so 7mm bolt is going to go back in there for the vent. Stick the 7mm back in. As I said before, when we pop the screen out, there's alignment pins. So all you have to do is make sure your wires are not pinched in here. and then line up your alignment pins and snap it back in place. Okay. All right, guys, now you can kind of see how the gauge and the vent assembly mount in the car. We got that installed for you. You get an idea, be a little more comfortable putting it in, and you kind of know what you're getting into. Now we are able to actually finish testing the car that really gave us the reason for making this. I don't know if you guys have caught on to that yet or not, but it is a turbo kit for the 2024 and up Mustangs. And we can monitor boost now. So if you guys have questions on this, install questions, whatever it may be, shoot us an email, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help you. Subscribe, like the video. Any support that we get on YouTube helps us as well. So if there's anything you guys want to see other than products, even if it's just questions or whatever it may be, we'd be more than happy to dig into that stuff. So yeah, so now you guys got a gauge option for the S650 Mustang, and there's a lot more of this stuff to come, so we will catch you on the next one.